The cross-country team opens up their season, the women's volleyball team travels to a road tournament, and the men and women's soccer team took the field at home to try and impress the home crowd. I am Dan Ward, and this is Mason Sports Insider. We begin today's episode with the teams that just began their seasons, the men and women's cross-country teams. Both teams competed in the Spider Alumni Open Invitational in Mechanicsville, Virginia. The men's team competed in a 5K while the women competed in a 2-mile race, both distances being shorter than what the teams will have to endure this season. For the women, it was sophomore Sierra Donahue and Amber Hawkins who shined bright for the Patriots, racing very well against some of the other top opponents from the other schools. Meanwhile, the star of the weekend for the men's team was junior Luke Sharkey, who has some big shoes to fill this season. Now, while head coach Andrew Gerard did not want to go into too much detail and look too far ahead about the race because of the short distances, he did have something to say. He said, quote, "We saw good progress from the returning racers, comparing year to year, so I'm generally pleased. We have a long way to go towards the championships, but we're on the right track," end quote. The Patriots will return to action next Saturday with the James Madison Invitational in Newmarket, Virginia. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the women's soccer team. The team that came into play this past weekend with a 3-0 home record, trying to go undefeated and sweep a 4-game homestand. Their final two opponents on the homestand were the Howard Bison and the Oklahoma Sooners. So let's take a look at the highlights to see how the Patriots fared against the Bison. After being shut out in the first half of the first two games of the homestand and only scoring one first-half goal overall this season, the Patriots turned it around against the Bison. The team took an early lead when junior Abby Downey scored from 6 yards out in the 10th minute off a nice crossing pass from junior Kyla Williams. The Patriots made it 2-0 soon after in the 22nd minute when sophomore Nia Elbeck scored her second goal of the season from close range inside the box. This time, the assists came from senior Sarah Hardison and junior Kelsey Young. The goal for Elbeck matches her season total from a year ago. 2 first-half goals was impressive, but not enough for the Patriots. For in the 33rd minute, junior Jenna Hamilton found the back of the net from 18 yards out to give Mason the 3-0 lead. Junior Aaron Mitchell and sophomore Emily Littell picked up assists on the goal, and then Mason finally wrapped up the scoring with Hamilton netting her second goal of the game in the 42nd minute.
Collison is there, sends it towards the middle. Shots taken, and they score!
Senior Alex Myers and sophomore transfer Becca Collison with the assist on Hamilton's second goal. The Patriots went on to defeat Howard by the score of 4-0. So the Stars had a line for the Patriots to sweep the 4-game homestand and remain undefeated at home this season. Their final test was against the Oklahoma Sooners. This was the first time the two teams have ever played each other. Mason was coming off back-to-back shutouts, while the Sooners out of the Big 12 Conference were coming off being shut out in back-to-back games. Despite the recent success favoring Mason, it was the Sooners who took control of this game early. Oklahoma controlled the play for most of the first half and took a 1-0 lead when senior Liz Keister found the top left corner in the 22nd minute. The Patriots' defense struggled a bit in the first half, and the Sooners took advantage, increasing their lead less than 3 minutes later, when senior Shiloh Price tapped in a crossing pass that snuck past the Patriots' defense to make the score 2-0. Despite some halftime adjustments and stronger play from the Patriots in the second half, Oklahoma was simply too much for the Patriots, as they would add 2 more goals in the second half to defeat the Patriots 4-0. The loss was the first at home for the Patriots and the second overall this season. So the Patriots fall to this past week with a 1-1 record, but not necessarily a bad loss for the Patriots. It did come against the Oklahoma Sooners, very strong team, and now both of their losses haven't necessarily been bad losses. They came one against number 4 Virginia, who up to this past Sunday had not given up a goal this season. So very, very tough opponent. National contenders are Virginia. And now the Oklahoma Sooners, who play in a very tough conference. They've played some very strong competition. They're now 3-2-1. So not bad losses for the Patriots, especially coming out of conference play. They've had some very good success on offense, although some of the struggles were displayed against Oklahoma. But they have 7 different goal scorers with at least a goal or more, and 4 of them have 2 goals. So the offense is doing well. They're passing the ball around, spreading it out, making it difficult for teams to identify one specific player that they need to stop, which bodes well for the offense moving forward. The defense was strong, back-to-back shutouts. Pearson Glad is off to a very strong start this season. But in the Oklahoma Sooners game, clearly some adjustments are going to need to be made, and I'm sure they'll be able to bounce back, though. They now hit a road trip, 3 straight games on the road before returning back to Mason September 29th. That'll be your next chance to check them out here at home. So now keeping up with the same sport but switching teams, we'll move on to the men's soccer team, who also had 2 games last week, in search of their first win of the season after falling to American in their season opener. Their first battle was against East Tennessee State University on the road. The Patriots started the game off right by taking the 1-0 lead off a goal by freshman Tunde Akinlosodu in the 14th minute, but then ETSU responded with 2 goals of their own in the first half to take a 2-1 lead to halftime. The score remained the same until the 70th minute when the Patriots found the back of the net again, this time by junior Henning Dirks. He scored his first goal of the season off the assist by Gillian Buick. But unfortunately, it was more of the same for the Patriots as it was in the first half. They score a goal. ETSU comes back with 2 more. They did so in the 78th minute and the 82nd minute and took the 4-2 win. But a new day fell upon the men's soccer team, and they returned home to Fairfax for their home opener and still in search of that first win of the season. They took on the Longwood Lancers. Let's go to the highlights to see how the Patriots fared against the Lancers. With the Patriot platoon appearing and a good crowd on hand, the Patriots made it exciting early by scoring in the 34th minute. With the Patriots pushing toward Longwood's penalty box, Mason's Matt Tucker broke up a pass. He then started running for the loose ball, and a Longwood defender, in an attempt to clear the ball, kicked it over his own goalkeeper and into the net for an own goal. Mason would take it, and they go into halftime with the lead. They continued to play very well in the second half, shutting down most Lancer pressure for most of the game, but unfortunately they could not find that second goal, and it would prove costly as the Lancers found an equalizer with less than 8 minutes left. Zach Corcoran received a pass on the right side and fired a shot into the top right corner past an outstretched Stephen Kraus. The teams headed for overtime, but there was not too much action here. Mason posed a few threats in overtime, but none were fruitful. Zach Kirstek had a shot at the top of the box, thwarted away by Longwood keeper Carlos Canis just 13 seconds into the first overtime. This would really be the best chance for the Patriots. They did have one other opportunity in the 108th minute when Henning Dirks drew a foul and a Longwood yellow card, but his free kick outside of the box was on mark but sailed high, so the Patriots would have to settle for a tie in their home opener, moving their record to 0-2-1. After the game, head coach Greg Andrulis said, quote, "We left them hanging around. I think they had 1 shot on goal in the second half, and it was a goal. That is the game of football, though. I thought we did a very good job with possession. We kept it. We moved it. We just have to be a little more decisive in the final third, offensively," end quote. So the Patriots, again, struggling with offense this season, and that is something that we saw last season, one of the biggest issues for the Patriots. They have scored a goal in every game this season, at least one, but only scoring 1 goal a game is really not going to be able to get it done. They had 2 against ETSU, but when you're giving up 4, that's even a bigger problem. They have allowed 7 goals this season, so the defense really needs to tighten up. We talked about it before that might be an issue for the team this year, as Taylor Washington and Bryce Colcom, 2 of the main starting defensemen for the Patriots last season, have both graduated and moved on. Taylor Washington, of course, with the Philadelphia Union. So some people are going to have to step up. We've seen Jordan Edwards step up very nicely, and Elaine Sargent continues to be his dominant self as he was a starter a year ago as well. But allowing 7 goals through 3 games, that's really not going to cut it for the Patriots. Really going to have to tighten things up, but hopefully they can do so this week. They do have 2 home games this weekend, so you can check them both out. We'll get you more info on that later in this show. Now let's move on to the women's volleyball team, who traveled to Connecticut this past week to participate in the Hampton Inn Invitational, where they took on Sacred Heart, Dartmouth, and Milwaukee. Sadly for the Patriots, they continue to show their immense potential, but they could not capitalize that and create a win on this road trip, dropping all 3 games in the Invitational. There were multiple bright spots, however, as the team was never lost a set by double digits, and 5 of them were only by 5 points or less. The play of sophomore Katie Espinoza, who was elected to the DC Challenge All-Tournament team, continues to impress as she has taken the libero position by storm. And the play of outside hitters freshman Michaela Wells, Bailey Williams, and junior Jordan Glass continues to be a pleasant surprise for the team. After losing outside hitter Morgan Martin, who led the team in kills throughout her 4 years at Mason, the team has found some new attackers, Michaela Wells leading the team with 64 kills this season, and Bailey Williams showing up strong, getting a career-high 11 kills over the weekend. Meanwhile, Jordan Glass continues to dominate, being third on the team in kills, and that trio of outside hitters has really helped the Patriots so far this season. So they'll see if they can get their first win of the season this weekend when they travel to Philadelphia, where they will participate in the Valley Forge Sports Pen Invitational. And last but not least, a look at the upcoming games for this week. It'll be a quiet week here in Fairfax with the women's soccer and volleyball teams both traveling on the road. The women's soccer team takes on Georgetown on Thursday at 4 p.m. and then Maryland on Sunday at 7 p.m. The women's volleyball team travels to Philly for 4 games in the Valley Forge Sports Pen Invitational. Meanwhile, the cross-country team heads down to James Madison this week for the James Madison Invitational. But your chance to take a look at some of the home games for the Patriots will be the men's soccer team. They give you 2 chances to catch a game, both at home. They play Friday against Cornell at 7 p.m. and Sunday against Gonzaga at 1 p.m. So be sure to come on out and support. Remember, they are free with your Mason ID. So that'll do it for this week's episode of Mason Sports Insider. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more Mason Sports Insider videos and more Mason Cable Network shows. If you liked the video, leave a thumbs up and leave a comment below for things that you liked and what you didn't like. You can also reach out to me personally on Twitter at Dan_Ward_11 for any insider talk as well as George Mason athletic updates and information. So until next time, I'm Dan Ward. Ciao, adios, see you next time. Have a good one, Mason Nation.